Okay, guys, let's look at type 2. So for type 2, the form, this expression, guys, can be factorized using the sum and difference of two cube rules. So if we look at the signs here, it's extremely important that you know that when you have a plus in between these two cubes, then you will start with a plus in this bracket that has a linear expression. Also, if you have a minus in between these two cubes, then you will have a minus. You're going to start with the minus, then followed by a plus. As you can see here, it starts with a plus because there's a plus here, then followed by a minus. I hope you can see that. Right. Now, if we look at number 2, we are going to obviously now have the first bracket, which would be then, okay, what is the cube root of x? It is just of x cubed. It's just x. And then what is the cube root of 64? It is 4, right? So those numbers are then squared here, and then 4 squared will then be 16. Right, now let's deal with the signs. And the signs, as we said, there is a minus here. Because there's a minus here, that means we're going to start with the minus, then followed by a plus. Right, so now what comes in between these two terms? What comes in between these two terms is when we multiply 4 and x, we are going to get 4x, right? And this is always a plus. Right, now, then after that, let's go ahead and solve. We'll have x minus 4, so that will be equal to x is equal to 4. And then this quadratic, we can see that we can just go ahead, guys, and do the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula from what we had before. So we will have, let's just write what a is. A is 1. B is 4, and then C is 16, right? So let's just go ahead and substitute. So you have negative, then you have 4 plus or minus the square root of. B is 4 squared or squared minus 4. Then you have A. A is 1, and then C is 16. Then over, you have 2 times by 1, right, equal to. So you have negative 4, then plus or minus. Now, if I look at this, when you try and work this out, so you'd have 16 and then you will have 64. So 16 minus 64 will give you negative 48 over 2. Then I will simplify this. I'll have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of. Let's just do a recall here. That if I have a square root of negative 48, that means I can separate this to negative 1 times by 48, which will equal to. Then obviously the square root of negative 1 will just be I, then I'll have a square root of 48. And a square root of 48 will give me 4 square root 3i. Okay, so I'll go ahead and write it here. 4 square root 3i divided, guys, by 2. So now if I want to simplify this, I can separate it. Separate each numerator will have its own denominator. So I have negative 4 divided by 2, and then plus or minus 4 square root 3i divided by 2. So the answer you get is negative 2 plus or minus 4 divided by 2 will give you 2, and then you have a square root of 3i, which remains there. And that's your answer for number 2.